Hi everyone, my name is Natasha Sakota. Welcome to today's video where I share my experience but with the online PCC credentialing exam. We used the Pearson VUE application to do this. So if you want to know more on how to go about this, please stay tuned because I'm going to tell you all the steps that I went through and perhaps give you some tips and allow you to also plan in advance, because there is some things that I didn't know, and had I known before, they would have helped me. So without further ado, the first thing I realized was that I did the ACSTH path, which is the approved coach specific training pathway to get my ACC and then my PCC. This does not include everything. It is accredited. The training is accredited by ICF, but it does not include the mentor hours, and your performance evaluation has to be done by you alone. So I thought, how come? Oh, and on top, the costs when you actually pay for sitting the exam is higher than the ACTP. And not only the time that it takes them to review your performance evaluation, the two video recordings that you give in, is from 14 to 18 weeks. Whereas, had I done the accredited coach training program right from the beginning, I would have saved money because it costs less when you apply for the actual exam. And this is a full one-stop program. It's fully comprehensive of the coach training hours, the mentor hours, and even your performance evaluation. Okay, so that's to keep in mind. There is another path. The third path is the portfolio path, but this one isn't accredited by ICF, but you can still do your PCC exam. You will have to give them a lot of documentation, and of course it's more expensive. Okay. So I am sometimes reading a little bit just to make sure I don't leave out any points or notes that could be of use. So now let's go on to the actual requirements for the PCC, the Professional Coach Certification. For this one, you need 125 hours of coach-specific training. Okay. Then you need to do 500 hours of coaching experience, having clients, and 450 of these have to be paid. You need at least 25 clients. The other 50, it can be between coaches or bartering, okay? You also need the 10 hours of mentor coaching by an PCC or an MCC. You cannot be mentored by an ACC, okay? And it should be spread over 3 months. Now, I already explained about the performance evaluation. You will need to do 2 recordings of about 55, 58 minutes. And it's important to understand that the PCC evaluation is one where you need to coach with more depth. The ACC, you needed to have the structure, the listening, and then the questioning and bringing them to their goal. At the PCC level, there are certain markers that have to be followed. So you have to really be careful what these markers are. And most importantly, they also want to see if you're looking at the non-verbal aspects of your client. If you see them perhaps flinch or you see a strange movement, you ask them about that. So you want to get more info or allow your client to reflect more on that emotion that is coming up for them, as well as asking them about their values, what is important for them, what do they believe in. So it's not only just let me follow the structure and get them to that goal, but it's a more sensitive session. In fact, in the MCC, this is taken even further. Okay, so this you have to be aware of. And once I finished my 2 recordings of the PCC, you put them on the platform, and then if you're ACTP like me, you wait 14 to 18 weeks for them to market. sorry, ACSTHIM. So I had to wait almost 14 to 18 weeks. However, I did request them to accelerate the marking of my performance evaluation because my ACC 3-year time period was running out. And this is where I'd like to take my hat off to ICF. Whatever problem you have, do not hesitate to write. They do have a good support system, and they do always try to accommodate you. So whatever issue you have, write to them. It takes a day or two, especially if in Europe the hours are different, but they do respond. And so once my 2 evaluations were marked and I passed, I could then only apply for the written exam. And you have 1 month time from when you get the approval of your evaluations to book your exam. And you book the exam through the platform. And I decided that I wanted to do the online Pearson VUE exam. I didn't want to go in person. And so this is what I did. And I decided to apply for it after about 3 weeks. Why? Because I wanted to study the ethics and the core competencies really well. Every day I would read them. I didn't learn them off by heart. I read them, and I made sure to understand the nuances of the words and the way things were put, because the questions in the exam are not that easy. You have 4 questions, 1 question, 4 answers, and you have to choose which was the best answer and which was the worst. But it's not at all easy. So I suggest that before you book that final exam, give yourself time to review the core competencies, the ethics, and to do many, many sample questions. The ICF offers you the resources. There are other coaching schools that also offer sample questions. Even ChatGPT or these AI agents, they can also develop questions for you to practice. Okay, so the first thing I noticed was when I booked that exam and I said I wanted to do online, they said download the application. I said, okay, I downloaded it on my computer Mac. And then they said you have to test. You have to test the application if it works. So I said, let me test it. Unfortunately, my computer was too old and I didn't realize that. Then I had to go back and look, from when does this app work? And so it has to be a relatively new, not a completely, but relatively new computer. So I stopped downloading it on my Mac and I took my daughter's newer Mac, downloaded it there, and I got past the first test, which was the test of sound. I had to clap my hands and tick, that went off. Then there was another thing about, I think it was applications, what were on, but they check your computer, that's okay. And then there was one of the video, the screen. Does your face show up? Because they have to check that the video and the camera on the computer sees you. And it didn't work. So I had a fit. I said, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And so it took me 2 days to understand how to make the camera work on my computer. So you have to check your webcam and make sure it hasn't been, restricted or put off on another application. Okay, so please check that. While you're doing the exam, no applications must be on, none at all, because they don't want you to cheat. And in fact, when you do this actual exam, you will have a live proctor that I thought I would meet, but you don't meet them. They just give you instructions of what to do. You have to show your ID, you have to they'll take a photo of your face, and then you have to show the room, because you're not allowed anything around that could suggest that you may be hiding a piece of paper to cheat. So be sure to have a clear desk and all the surroundings are clear, because you will have to do a video for them. Okay. So that was that. The exam, is a 3-hour exam, and it's based on about 78, if I'm not mistaken, multiple choice questions. And I was allowed a 10-minute break. So I could go to the toilet, I could stretch a bit. That was very useful because it was quite taxing. Even though, actually the main thing was my back started to hurt. So I got up, I stretched, I moved around. They do allow you to keep certain things like water, I think some painkillers, but you can find all this information, check it out on the Pearson VUE instruction sheet that they have on ICF. And they even allow glasses. So I made sure I had my, what are they called, those blue glasses, blue glasses, because after a while my eyes were hurting because the font that I found was a bit too small. And so I had to, lean in and my eyes were getting strained. So if you have those blue-eyed glasses, absolutely use them. Make sure you have the cushion for the sore back, and they do allow you to have one painkiller in case you should need that. So these few things I did have in case. And then, okay, I'm just checking if I mentioned everything, the 3 hour, yes. There was a clock on the actual screen on the right hand corner looking at the screen, and it counted down. So you had like 100 or whatever, 3 hours, 6 threes, 180 minutes, and it counts down. Do not worry, you have time. However, I found that what helped me was, first of all, to start reading each question by reading the answers first, so that I wouldn't be like biased from the question. So so that from the answers I could check, well, that one is better than this one, knowing the core competencies or ethics, or that one is really the worst. So I read the answers first, and then I went to the question and I read the question, and then I did the answers. You have time to do that. And there were quite a few where I was quite confused. I couldn't choose. But I remember that it's always best to answer, because answer immediately and you have the option to flag that question. Why answer immediately? Because should you come to the end and you don't have any more time, you've at least put an answer. Should you come to the end and you have time, you see the flagged questions, you can go back and check them and then, correct your answer or change your answer as you wish. What else? So that was the questioning. Okay. I think I've told you everything. There was just, what could I say? The most important thing that comes to my mind now is that it's nerve-wracking, it's long. And so I decided to go in with that exact mindset, the coaching mindset that the ICF core competencies talk about, I made sure I was present, I was there, I was focused, and that I believed in myself. I really knew that I have the talent, I work for it, the resources to be able to pass this exam. And I kept telling myself that. So as soon as I found myself getting a bit nervous, I would breathe, look up, open my shoulders, breathe and say, you got this, you can do it. The universe is on your side. I even said that. And so the mindset is so, so important. Do that. And what happens is when you finish and they say, well, have you finished? You say, yes, that's it. You press yes, finished. The question comes up, did you pass? And I just said, of course I passed. Yes, because I knew I would pass. That's my mindset. That was my mindset that I suggest you take on when you do this exam. And then I waited 2 or 3 minutes, fingers crossed. Yes, I was like, oh, please God, because the 3 hours was long. And I passed. I was so happy. I didn't pass by much, but doesn't matter because no one will know my result. But I passed. So I didn't have to sit through the 3 hours again. And you know what? I didn't even know. I only found out after that for your MCC, you don't have to sit this exam again. It's only the recordings and the coaching hours and the mentoring, I think, that you need. But I never will have to write the PCC credentialing exam again. That was the best news. So my fellow coachees and also clients who would like to start this new coaching pathway, I am here to support you. This is how I can give back to the community. Please, please write to me. I can also offer mentoring if you would like, for anybody who's a PCC or would like to become a PCC or an ACC. So take advantage of me. I hope this video served you. I hope you learned something from it. And good luck. You got this.